You've heard the headlines. You've seen the news. Explosions. Soldiers. Fear. But behind every headline, there is a human story. A mother. A student. A soldier. A dreamer. This is the story of the American war in Afghanistan, told in voices, in memories, in moments that still live in the hearts of those who survived. It's not just about war. It's about people. So, sit back, listen closely, because this story is not over, and some voices still need to be heard. Chapter 1. The Day the World Changed. It was a clear blue morning in New York City. People were going to work, drinking coffee, waiting for the train. Everything felt normal, ordinary. No one knew what was coming. At 8:46 a.m., the first plane hit, American Airlines Flight 11. It crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. People looked up. They thought, maybe it was a mistake. A small plane? An accident? 17 minutes later, another plane. United Flight 175. It hit the South Tower. Hard. That was no accident. And then, silence. Not the kind you hear, the kind you feel in your chest, in your bones, in your breath. People ran, screamed, phones rang, but no one answered. Dust filled the streets, sirens everywhere. Firefighters ran into the buildings, not out. They didn't stop. Even when the floors shook, even when they knew they might not come back. One woman, I saw people, they didn't want to burn, so they jumped. Her voice broke when she said it. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower fell. A cloud of smoke rose like a monster. People cried, fell to the ground. They couldn't believe it. Then the North Tower came down too, at 10:28. Both towers gone, in less than 2 hours. In Washington, D.C., another plane crashed into the Pentagon. A fourth plane, United Flight 93, never reached its target. The passengers fought back. They saved others, but not themselves. That day, almost 3,000 people died. And millions watched. On TV, on phones, in schools, in offices, even in other countries, people cried because it didn't feel like one city or one country. It felt like everyone was hit. Why would someone do this? That question echoed across the world. The U.S. said the men who took the planes were part of a group, Al-Qaeda, led by a man named Osama bin Laden. He was hiding in Afghanistan. People were afraid, angry, lost. And America said, "We will not forget. We will fight back." But in Afghanistan, people also watched the news. They wondered, what will happen to us now? Because when one war ends, another often begins. And for Afghanistan, that war was just about to start. Chapter 2. We Will Not Forget. America was in shock. People lit candles, hung flags outside their windows, photos of missing loved ones covered the walls of New York, and the pain turned into something else. Anger. President George W. Bush stood in front of the nation. His voice was calm, but strong. He said, "We will not forget. We will not forgive. We will hunt them down." People cheered. Some cried. Others held each other in silence. Across the ocean, in a faraway land called Afghanistan, people also watched. But they were not cheering. They were scared. The U.S. said the men who planned the attacks were from a group called Al-Qaeda. Their leader, Osama bin Laden, was living in Afghanistan. The Taliban, the group in power, was protecting him. America gave a warning. Give him to us, or we will come. The Taliban refused. And so, America prepared for war. 26 days after September 11th, the bombing began. Afghans heard the sounds first. Loud, deep, booms that shook the sky. They saw planes, big, silver ones, flying above. Then came the explosions, night after night. One Afghan man said, "We didn't know who they were fighting. We only knew we were in the middle." In America, many people supported the war. They believed it was right. They believed it was just. A soldier named Mike was only 19 when he left home. His mother hugged him and whispered, "Come back to me." He nodded, but in his heart, he didn't know if he would. The U.S. sent thousands of troops. They worked with Afghan fighters who hated the Taliban. Together, they moved fast. The Taliban started to fall. City by city, checkpoint by checkpoint. Their flags were torn down. Their fighters ran or disappeared into the mountains. By December 2001, just 3 months after the bombing started, the Taliban were gone. The U.S. said, "We won." But the truth was, the war was not over. Not even close. In a small village, a girl named Layla heard the news. She was 12 years old. She asked her mother, "Does this mean I can go to school now?" Her mother smiled, a tired smile. "Yes, my love, I think maybe now you can." Hope was in the air. So was fear. Because the Taliban had disappeared, but they were not gone. Not really. They were waiting, watching. And the Americans, they were staying. Chapter 3. Bombs and Promises. The first U.S. bombs hit the ground in October 2001. They were loud, heavy, bright. They lit up the sky like fire. People in Kabul ran outside in the night. Mothers held their children. Fathers looked up and said, "It has started." The U.S. said this war was to stop terrorists, to destroy Al-Qaeda, to remove the Taliban, the group that ruled Afghanistan with fear. They also said, "We are here to help. We want to bring peace, schools, freedom. Some people believed them. Others did not. One man in Kandahar whispered, "First they drop bombs. Then they drop food. How can we trust them?" But the Taliban fell quickly. City after city, they lost power. Kabul was free. People cheered in the streets. Women took off their burqas. Music played again in the markets. For the first time in years, people danced. In a small village, a boy named Farid listened to the radio. The voice said, "The Taliban are gone. The Americans are here now." Farid looked at his father. "Does that mean the war is over?" His father didn't answer. He just stared at the floor. American soldiers entered villages. Some smiled, gave candy to children. Others knocked down doors, searching for fighters. Not everyone felt safe. Some felt watched. Some felt angry. Some wanted revenge. A teacher in Herat opened her school again. Girls sat in chairs for the first time in years. They held pencils like they were holding gold. One girl, Zainab, said, "I want to be a doctor." And for the first time, she believed she could. But outside the school gates, the ground still shook. There were still bombs, still gunshots, still fear. The war was not finished. It was changing. The U.S. and its allies stayed. They built bases, set up a new Afghan government. They trained Afghan soldiers to fight the Taliban. Billions of dollars were spent. Many promises were made. But the Taliban had not disappeared. They had just hidden. In the mountains, in the shadows. And every few weeks, they attacked again. One soldier wrote in his notebook, "We win today, we lose tomorrow. Then we win again. I don't understand this place. I just want to go home." In America, people watched the war on the news. But after a while, they stopped watching. They got tired, busy. But in Afghanistan, the war never turned off. It was always there, in the sky, in the streets, in the hearts of the people. The U.S. had come with bombs, but also with promises. Some were kept. Many were not. Chapter 4. Living in the Middle of War. Every morning in Afghanistan began the same way, with a question: is today safe? Sometimes the answer was yes. Sometimes it was not. In the city of Jalalabad, a mother named Shakira filled a bucket with water. The pipes were broken again. No running water for the 5th day. She looked at her children. Their hair was dusty. Their shoes had holes. But they were alive. And that was something. In the distance, she heard it. Thump, thump, thump. A helicopter flying low. Her youngest son, Sammy, ran under the table. He always did that when he heard helicopters. Shakira didn't tell him to stop. She understood. At the same time, in another part of the city, a boy named Omar was getting ready for school. He put on his backpack. It was old, with one strap broken. He didn't care. He was excited. He was learning how to write stories. He wanted to be a journalist one day. His father looked at him before he left, held his shoulder and said, "If anything happens, find a safe place, then come home." Omar nodded, but he felt a stone in his chest. His school was only 10 minutes away, but the road passed a checkpoint, and on some days, that checkpoint became a target. That morning, everything seemed fine, until it wasn't. Just after lunch, a loud boom shook the windows. Children screamed. Dust came in through the cracks. Omar froze. His pencil fell to the floor. The teacher shouted, "Everyone under the desks, stay down." His heart beat so fast he could hear it in his ears. Boom, boom, boom. When the noise stopped, Omar lifted his head. He saw smoke outside the window. Someone was crying. And then he heard something that made his hands shake. Sirens. That night, his father held him close. Omar didn't speak. He just stared at the wall. His father whispered, "This is not your fault. You are a child. You are not supposed to live like this." Omar didn't answer. He didn't know what life was supposed to feel like anymore. In villages, things were even harder. No electricity, no medicine, no schools. Families moved from place to place, looking for safety. But where could they go? The war was everywhere. And yet, people still hoped. Girls carried books to school in plastic bags. Mothers made tea, even if there was only one spoon of sugar left. Boys played football with a ball made of cloth and string. Because life didn't stop, even in war. Especially in war. Afghans kept living, kept trying, kept holding on, even when the world forgot them. They did not forget themselves. Chapter 5. We Are Still Here. The Taliban had disappeared, but not for long. They left the cities, left the big roads, but in the mountains, in the dark valleys, in small villages, they waited. In the village of Sangin, a boy named Haroun heard whispers. "They're back," someone said at the market. "Only at night," said another. "They leave notes on the doors, telling people what to do, who to fear." At first, Haroun didn't believe it. But then, one morning, his school was closed. A sign was nailed to the gate. It read, "No more school." Or else. His sister, Miriam, cried. She had just learned how to write her name. Now, she had to stay home. Haroun's father said, "They went away before. They will go away again." But Haroun wasn't so sure. In the capital, things looked normal. Shops were open. Cars were moving. The new Afghan government wore suits, gave speeches, made promises. But outside the city, the war never stopped. Roads were full of danger. Every trip could be your last. You never knew where a bomb might be, or who was watching. American soldiers were still there. So were British, Canadian, German, and others. They worked with Afghan forces, trained them, fought beside them. But still, the Taliban kept coming back. They didn't wear uniforms. They didn't need tanks. They moved quietly. and struck hard. One night, Haroon heard gunfire near the village. His mother pulled him close. "Stay down. Don't speak," she whispered. He lay still on the floor, holding his breath. The gunfire stopped, then footsteps, then silence. In the morning, a neighbor was gone. No one said his name. No one asked questions. Everyone knew. The Taliban had visited. In a nearby village, a teacher was taken. He taught girls to read. They called that a crime. His students waited for him the next day. He never came back. People were afraid to choose sides. Speak to the government. Risk your life. Speak to the Taliban. Risk your soul. So most people stayed quiet, tried to survive. But not all. Some stood up. Some kept teaching. Some kept hoping. A young woman named Layla started a secret school in her home. She closed the windows, whispered the alphabet. The girls wrote on the backs of cardboard boxes. They were learning. They were resisting. One day, someone asked her, "Why do you do this? Aren't you afraid?" She looked at the little girls around her and said, "Yes, I'm afraid. But we are still here." The Taliban had returned. The war had changed shapes, but the people had not disappeared. They lived. They dreamed. They refused to give up. And in the quiet spaces between battles, they whispered to the world, "We are still here." Chapter 6. The Hidden Half. In many places around the world, a girl wakes up, gets dressed, and goes to school. In Afghanistan, for many years, it was not that simple. If you were a girl, you had to be careful. Careful what you said. Careful where you walked. Careful what you wore. And sometimes, even that wasn't enough. In the city of Herat, a woman named Nadia stood in front of a classroom. She wore a scarf. She smiled at her students. 30 girls sat in chairs, pencils in hand, eyes full of hope. Nadia loved her job. She loved teaching math. And she believed something powerful. A girl with numbers in her hands can shape her own future. But each morning, as she locked the classroom door, she asked herself the same question. Will I come home tonight? Not far away, a woman named Samira was learning to be a doctor. Her dream was to help women give birth safely. So no mother had to die because no one came. She studied late into the night. She memorized long words. She practiced on plastic models. But one day, as she walked to class, a man on a motorbike threw something at her. It was acid. She dropped to the ground, screaming. Her face burned. Her hands burned. Her books were on fire. Why? Because she was a woman. Because she dared to learn. There are stories like this all across Afghanistan. Some you hear. Some you never will. In the village of Bamyan, a girl named Zahra played the sitar, an old Afghan instrument. She practiced quietly in her room. She knew music was dangerous, but she said, "When I play, I feel free." Her father listened from the hallway. He smiled. and he prayed that no one outside would hear her. For years, women in Afghanistan fought to live full lives, to go to school, to work as journalists, artists, engineers. They stood in front of cameras, held signs, marched in the streets. Their voices were strong, even when their bodies were tired. But war does not like loud women. War wants silence. And still, they spoke. A young girl once wrote in her diary, "They tell me I am only a girl, but I am also a person, and I am not afraid." Her name was Mina. She was 12. And like millions of others, she was the hidden half, the half that cooked the meals, cleaned the floors, wiped the tears, but also the half that dreamed, that resisted, that kept going, even when the world said no. Afghanistan's story is not just about war. It's about women. Women who dared to be seen, to be heard, to be more. Chapter 7. The Soldier's Eyes. They were young, some just 18, fresh out of school, still unsure how to shave, how to say goodbye, how to hold a gun. They signed papers, put on a uniform, and got on a plane. To a place they could not find on a map, to a war they did not start, to a land they did not understand. One of them was Tyler, from a small town in Texas. He worked in a gas station before the army, liked playing guitar, liked late-night drives. Then September 11th happened, and everything changed. He said, "I wanted to protect my country. I wanted to be a hero." But war does not feel like the movies, not when it's real. His first week in Afghanistan, Tyler met a boy. The boy had no shoes. He held out his hand, smiling. Tyler gave him a candy bar. The boy ran off, laughing. That night, a bomb exploded near the same road. Tyler asked the commander, "Was it them? The same village?" The commander didn't answer. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Hot days, cold nights, sand in his eyes, fear in his chest. Every time a truck started, he wondered if it would blow up. Every time he knocked on a door, he wondered if someone would shoot. Back home, people asked, "So, what's it like over there?" Tyler smiled, but his eyes didn't. In another unit, a soldier named Rachel wrote letters to her little brother. She told him about the stars in the Afghan sky, how they looked close enough to touch. She didn't tell him about the time she saw a child die, or the time she had to carry her friend's body across a field. Some things you don't put in letters. One day, Rachel's group entered a village. They were looking for Taliban fighters. An old man came out with his hands up. He said, "We just want peace. Please." Rachel looked into his eyes, and for a moment, she believed him. But then someone shouted, a shot fired, and everything went dark. When Rachel woke up, her ears were ringing. There was dust in her mouth, blood on her hands. Her friend was gone. She came home 6 months later, but part of her stayed behind. Many soldiers came back from Afghanistan, but they didn't return the same. Some had lost friends, some had lost hope, some had lost themselves. Tyler once said, "We didn't just carry guns, we carried stories. Stories of pain, of fear, of moments too hard to forget. And in their eyes, you could see it. Not anger, not hate, just the weight of it all." Chapter 8. The Airport Fell First. It was August 2021. The sky over Kabul was quiet for a moment, but the city was holding its breath. Everyone felt it. Something was coming, and then it came. The Taliban entered the city. No big battle, no long fight, just silence and fear. People ran. To their homes, to the shops, to the airport. The airport. That was the last hope. Men, women, children, they filled the roads. Some had bags. Some had nothing at all. They didn't care where they were going. They just wanted out. Lena stood at the gate with her baby. She had worked as a translator for the U.S. She had papers, a letter, a promise. But the soldiers said, "No more today. Come back tomorrow." She cried, "There may not be a tomorrow." No one answered. Inside the airport, American soldiers stood in lines, eyes wide, hands on their weapons, trying to control a sea of fear. Planes were leaving, fast, full. Every seat was life or death. On the runway, some people ran beside the planes. One man climbed onto the wheel. Another held the wing. The plane lifted. And they did too. But they couldn't hold on. They fell. Through the air, through the sky, to the ground. The world watched. On phones, on TV, in silence. A boy named Reza stood behind the fence. He was only 15. He whispered to his brother, "If we don't get out, what will happen to us?" His brother didn't answer. He couldn't. Outside the airport, gunshots echoed. Crowds pushed forward. Some fainted in the heat. Some were crushed by the crowd. And still, they came. Why? Because they were afraid. Afraid of what the Taliban would do. Afraid of what they remembered. Afraid of what was to come. Inside a U.S. plane, a soldier named Marcus looked out the small window. He saw hundreds still waiting. He whispered, "We can't take them all." And that truth broke him. The Taliban were back. The war was over, but the chaos had just begun. On August 30th, 2021, the last U.S. soldier stepped onto the final plane. The door closed. The sky grew dark, and Afghanistan was on its own. The airport lights went off, and the city was quiet again. But this time, the quiet didn't feel safe. It felt like the end of something, and the start of something else. Chapter 9. We are not just victims. You've heard about the war. the bombs, the pain, the fear. But that's not the whole story. Not even close. Afghans are not just victims. They are teachers, poets, builders, mothers, and dreamers. They cry, yes, but they also sing. They survive, and they live. In the city of Bamiyan, a boy named Arash paints. He doesn't have a studio. He uses a wall in the back of his house. His brush is old, but his colors are bright. He paints women flying, books with wings, a sun that never sets. When people ask him why, he says, "I paint what I want to see." In Kabul, Layla runs a small cafe. She serves tea, bread, and music. At night, women come to talk. They whisper, laugh, share poems. Some remove their headscarves, just for an hour. It's not about coffee. It's about freedom. In a mountain village, a girl named Homa walks 3 hours to school. Through snow, through dust, through checkpoints. She doesn't complain. She says, "My feet hurt, but my mind is strong." Her dream? To become a scientist. And she will. She believes it. So we should too. There's a radio station in Jalalabad. It plays songs in Dari and Pashto. It shares poems from old books and new voices. The host, Farhad, ends every show the same way. We are still here. We are still singing. That matters. Because for years, the world only saw their sadness, only heard the explosions, only showed the tears. But there was always more. Always. There were weddings, laughter, soccer games in dusty fields, tiny gardens in front of broken homes. There were jokes told in bunkers, love letters passed between sandbags, bread shared with strangers, and songs sung, even during air raids. One young woman wrote in her journal, "I don't want your pity. I want your respect. I am not just what happened to me. I am also what I chose to become." Her name was Nargis. She was 19. And her words, like so many Afghan voices, are still alive. You see, the war changed many things, but it did not erase them. The people are still speaking, still hoping, still dreaming. They are more than victims. They are more than stories of war. They are human, just like you, just like me. And they want you to know, we are not just victims. Chapter 10. What was left behind. The war ended. The planes left. The soldiers went home. But the story did not end. In the streets of Kabul, there was silence. Not peace, not joy, just silence. Some people called it the end of the war, but for those still living there, it didn't feel like an ending. A mother stood by the window. Her son had worked with the Americans. Now he was hiding. She watched the street, waited for footsteps, prayed she would never hear a knock at the door. A little girl walked past an old school. The windows were broken. The sign was gone. But she still looked at it, as if it might open again. Maybe someday. So what did the war leave behind? Buildings? Yes. Many were broken. Some were rebuilt. Weapons? Too many. But that's not all. It left stories, memories, wounds you cannot see. It left empty chairs, at dinner tables, in classrooms, in homes. It left questions. Why did it happen? Was it worth it? Will it happen again? It left scars on the land, on the people, on the heart. And yet, it also left something else. Something small, but still there. Hope. Because people are still planting flowers, still reading books in secret, still singing when no one is listening. Because a child who lived through war can still dream of peace. Because no matter how deep the pain, humans still hold on. A young boy named Yusuf lost his leg to a landmine, but every day he wheels himself to the market. He sells apples. He smiles at strangers. He says, "I want to build a new life, a better one." A teacher named Amina keeps a journal. She writes stories her students will one day read. She writes about courage and kindness and healing. And somewhere, a young girl is picking up a pencil for the first time. The war left behind ashes, yes, but also seeds, seeds of something new, something not yet grown, but waiting. You can't see it from far away, not on the news, not in reports. But if you listen, really listen, you'll hear it in their voices, in the quiet, in the poems, in the songs. The U.S. left, the war ended, but the people stayed. Their strength stayed. And that is what was left behind.